it doesn't matter how ready you are to do this. Like if you dream or if you want to be more location independent and it works with your budget to do this, and you have a job, like a kind of a stable job or work as a freelancer, I would just recommend not to postpone things, but like actually really go out there. It doesn't matter if you go on Nomad Cruise or you go to Lisbon to meet people who are living this life, or to Bali or to Chiang Mai. But the most important thing is not to be alone and dreaming about this lifestyle, but actually going out there, because there's a lot of amazing people and everyone has been in the same situation, that they kind of didn't know many people who were doing this, and now we are all super well connected. So rather start earlier than later.
Hello, Johannes. Welcome on the show. I'm really happy to have you here.
I'm super happy to be here too, and that we can, that I can finally be part of your podcast, and we have some time to catch up. So
Definitely,
looking forward to
definitely.
this episode.
Yeah, me too. I was really looking forward to this. There's a few topics that I would like to cover, but before deep diving into Nomad Cruise, which we're definitely going to talk about, I really would like to talk on the beginning of your personal journey, because I saw so many similarities on how you started your journey and how you figured out that you need a community. So you were a backpacker in the beginning. How were those years for you?
Yes, I mean, my whole traveling journey basically started as a backpacker, and I really enjoyed this. I mean, I was always super keen to meet a lot of people in many places around the world. But if you're traveling the world as a digital nomad, it's much harder. And the main problem is that when you're a backpacker, basically what I learned was that backpackers, they also have community. So if you are traveling for 1 year around the world, you have your community, because eventually you meet other people who are also traveling around the world for 1 year. And sometimes you meet them again, and then you meet these people and whatsoever. But for me, as a nomad, the problem was I would meet people and then I would not be able to see them again because they travel much faster, right? So as a nomad, you have a different pace of traveling than a backpacker. And whereas other backpackers are like, traveling the route between Buenos Aires and Medellin, south to South America, um, they would do this in 3 months. As a nomad, that would be impossible to do it. So I always met really cool people that I lost again. And whereas we all need community, but we cannot have the same community like the backpackers do, or like
Yeah.
other travelers do, because we need to run a business. And that was a huge problem for me when I started to be a nomad. And that's why then I thought, like, okay, why shall I not try to create this community by myself?
The funny thing is that the first time before I actually met you, the day before, I stayed in a hostel in Gran Canaria. And those days, I just released my book and it came out late. So I was super busy to make sure that everything is organized before hopping on the cruise. And I spent I think like 5 days or 6 days in Gran Canaria in the hostel, just like in the lobby, working as a maniac. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night because the backpackers were super, super loud. And I went out like being an absolute, I don't know, like an old person saying like, you should be sleeping and I can't work like this. And I just realized that I'm like no longer one of them. And on the very last day, we were about to check in and I still needed to figure out a lot of things. So I was in my computer and I was just like typing, and trying to figure out the last bits before hopping on the cruise. And I look up and I see 5 other people in the hostel doing the same thing, like being in absolute panic. And I just like shouted out, I'm like, are you going to the Nomad Cruise? And they were like, yeah. And then they went back to the computer. So actually the same thing that you went through, I went through, because that was the moment when I realized I found my community finally at this
Mm,
hostel. I'm like, these are
mm.
my people. They understand that you need to work me while you're traveling.
Yes, yes. No, yeah, I think we all go get to this moment, right? I mean, or a lot of people are kind of skipping these backpacking years, and then they become a nomad, and then they realize, yeah, like there are quite a lot of different ways how people travel, and not always everything works together so well.
Yeah. Well, how did you start it to call together all these people that you wanted to travel with? What was the first part?
So the first part was that I felt that in order to live this life, I need to meet more people who do this. So I traveled 10 months through South America, and I met 5 people who were also working online in 10 months. Yeah, and then I actually realized, so actually it wasn't 10 months, it was maybe about 7 months. But at the end of this journey, I realized like now I want to change something. And then I had the idea, because I was always thinking, I want to have a house where like people can work and stay, and like, like what every co-living is these days. But there wasn't really a name, for these co-living or for these concepts. And I thought I would love to start a house, but I still want to travel. And then I had the idea to create a travel guide for people who work online. And I thought that's a great way. If I can sell that travel guide online, that's a great way for me to meet those people, and also not to be bound to one place. And that was actually an ebook that came out like even like 2 years before Nomad List was there, which
Wow.
is like the main source for everyone to learn about the nomad life, or to learn about great destinations. But basically, I started this ebook and I was selling it on Facebook. And eventually I thought like, okay, well, all these people bought this ebook, so now I need to meet them as well. And then I invited them to a Facebook group, the Nomad Base Digital Nomad Community. That is now the name, but this was the very first Facebook group for digital nomads. I changed the name a few times, but eventually I saw that a lot of people wanted to join this group because it was called like Digital Nomad Community, right? So and then I thought, okay, well, not everyone is buying my book, but many people want to be part of this. So I'll just, open this up for everyone. And so now this group has got over 70,000 members these days. But in the beginning, it was the first Facebook group for digital nomads. And that's where I kind of started to create community. And that's also how we launched the Nomad Cruise, because this community grew quite quickly, built from this ebook to about 5,000 people. And at that moment, I had not organized any events or anything for this. And then we discovered like a pretty cheap cruise that was going to South America. And I just thought like, okay, well, it's so hard for us to meet, but would be so great, if we can all jump on this ship and go to South America together. Because in these 7 months in the beginning, it was so hard for me to meet anyone. And I thought, okay, if we bring a lot of people to the same continent, then we have a community wherever we go, which turned out to be true. We celebrated Carnival, well, not Carnival, they also did celebrate, but we celebrated New Year's with like 40 people after the cruise. We went to Jericoacoara, amazing beach town that you also know pretty well, right?
Yeah.
We went there to celebrate Christmas. So it was much easier to arrive with a lot of people on another continent and plug into these cities than the difficulties that I had in the beginning. And that was like kind of the start of me building community for digital nomads.
I really love that what you do is that in the beginning, when you start building this community, that's actually a home for many people now. It's because you felt that you want to belong somewhere. So that was the first step. Was there any kind of business idea behind it, or you were like, okay, let's just see where it goes?
Well, yes. I mean, there was always some kind of business behind it, right? If you are selling accommodation or you're doing different things, but it was like, let's do this first and let's figure out how we can make it a business model later. Like my first intention was never the money. I actually like, so just to be a little bit more precise, I was actually doing some other projects like in Tarifa before I started the cruise, where I also organized weekly meetups. I really wanted to make Tarifa in southern Spain beautiful kite surf town. I wanted to bring more nomads there at that time, and there's still actually quite a Facebook group and things. But yeah, basically what happened was that I wanted to just make it easier for us to connect, and thought, that from this many opportunities will come up, but I'm just building what I want first, and then I figure out the business part later.
And you did.
Yes, I did. Now I finally did. Yes, and then COVID came. But that's
Yes.
another story. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, we started, I joined the team only on the fifth cruise. So you had four cruises, but the first one was a special one because there you just like brought these 100 people, and then you're like, okay, let's figure out how to make this happen.
Yeah.
And then by the time I joined, there were so many things in place. But what I really enjoyed in the work process is that you're putting an insane amount of thoughts on how to connect these people. So you're not only throwing out a program, but you're kind of like hacking a community into what it is right now. What are the basics of this? What do you think it makes it work?
Yeah, so I mean, personally, I have joined many conferences and events in the past, and I always found it, I mean, everyone is going to these events not just because of the talks, but because they want to meet people who are the same.
Yeah.
But I have to say that most of the events don't make it very easy for people who don't know many other people to plug in. And this is our biggest focus, right? To make it easy for someone who is not part of the digital nomad community, that they can go there alone onto this cruise, and they will feel part of the community like within the first 2-3 days, and that is actually very easy for them to connect. And now we have basically always some people, they've already been there 5 times, they know half of the cruise, and we have people who are joining for the first time. And to make it, very easy for everyone to plug in, we kind of need to find great ways how those people who have already joined many times in the past will connect with the new ones, and how the new ones also get to know each other and also feel part of the group. And some ways we are doing like 30-second pitches, which is, I think, an amazing tool for this. So when we start the cruise, everyone has got 30 seconds to share whatever they are doing. And I'm missing that with a lot of other events, to basically give people the stage. And I mean, I think that is a theme that is done on the entire Nomad Cruise, that we really focus on giving people the stage. Like, we are absolutely not interested into any ego-driven entrepreneurs who want to come on stage and share the cool story, how amazing they are. That interests us in no way at all. We really want to basically see who is on this cruise, what are the type of people who are here, and then we want to build an amazing program for them together with us, so that basically it's about the people who are joining, and they are shaping this program. And I mean, now we're planning for the next cruise, which is 3 months ahead, the program, and we're giving all these people who are part of the cruise, who just booked the cruise, the stage. And I think that creates also community. And then there's many more small details. We can dive into some if you have something in mind as well, but yeah.
Yeah, what I really enjoy in this is that you kind of feel, when you're in Nomad Cruise, you don't feel that there's like there's the speakers and then the normies, because eventually you can end up on stage at one point. I think what this organization does good, and it's weird to speak like this, but I think what's amazing with Nomad Cruise is that it holds space for people to show who they are, and it can be on the stage or it can be in a meetup. There's various things. There's a few key elements, I think, like showing people on stage. What other places you have there? I lost my thought a little bit.
Exactly. So basically giving every person the stage, not having speakers who are just coming there to speak, but only inviting speakers on board who actually want to be part of the community, right? So there's with all conferences, usually there's a huge divide. There's the speakers who run the show, and they have their private VIP area where they just hang out together. And but they don't really connect with the audience. With us, it's like we have a lot of bookings, like who wants to do a talk, and the talks we plan in advance, and then everything else we do on the boat. We have startup pitches, so we are organizing the Shark Tank version, which is called Piranha Tank, and where people can really pitch their business ideas, and they can ask for feedback and help from within the community. So last trip we had one girl who was pitching to start a digital nomad magazine, right? And then she could ask, there are some
I
publishers,
heard about it.
and now they're actually doing it,
It's
and
happening,
they're
yeah.
gonna print the first version. So I'm super happy to see, that we can actually create some impact with these events. We have like a public speaking where people can share their stories. We have a unconference, or like a skill share. So it's like a way that you can just put your idea on the board or on the app, and you can just organize small meetups. Now we are also exploring the ideas to have like dinner talks, right? So that you can suggest to run one dinner table for a night, and then 10 people who have the same interest, they can join you. So like actually there are so many different ways how you can connect and find your people. Also mastermind groups that are also a little bit more theme and topic specific. So there's so many amazing ways how you can find people who have the same interest or the same experiences, that it's hard actually not to really meet nice people on the ship.
Yeah, you see, there's like so many ways how Johannes is thinking about putting this together. I was not lying when I said that he's actually hacking this whole community. What kind of people do you think are joining? Because one of the misconceptions that I found is that people think that it's only for digital nomads, and that's not the case.
No, it's not. It's not. It's definitely not. I mean, it's a lot of people are joining who are interested in the lifestyle and who just want to experience this a little bit. And I mean, I think that a lot of people join the cruise. They join it 1 year, then they're like, going back. Some they go back to the office, or they're doing their freelance work wherever they are based. But the meeting of the other people who are already like quite location independent and living in different places around the world usually inspires a lot of people to also take that step. And I mean, I think that this is the most powerful coaching in that sense, to become location independent, is to meet the people who are living this lifestyle. So it's for both. And also we have a lot of like really successful business people who are joining and who just want to have something different than a normal vacation, right? So it's really a huge mix. What everyone has in common is that they do value freedom, right? They do value the freedom to design the life that they want, to to not just go to the office and have just I mean, every type of life is for everyone. Who everyone has got different expectations of their life, but this event, I would say, is not necessarily just for digital nomads, but it's for everyone who values freedom, who has got a huge interest in having the freedom to live the life that they want to live.
Yeah, actually, we read together as like kind of a homework this book called Belong, and she says, like the author says, that the first, when you put together a community, the first thing that you need to put down is the core value. And I think definitely the core value of Nomad Cruise is people who are looking for freedom, and then kind of also a little bit of curiosity. So anybody who's curious on, what else is possible, then they're ended up on the ship. And then the fun part about this, without being a complete fangirl, is that you can sit next to these people. So you sit down for a seated dinner, and there's like on the left side there's this backpacker girl, and then on the right side there is this entrepreneur guru who sold his business, and then you have a fantastic talk about something completely different. than what you would do on like a casual networking event, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's a huge diversity. I always like to say like it's everyone joining from backpacker to multimillionaire, and
Yeah.
and the interest is also completely different. And I think that it's a great way also to meet people who are completely different to you, and to really be open and have an open mind. Like that's the goal of this as well, right? To have a bit more of a connected community and a bit more understanding for other people as well. Again, it's just like mainly the freedom. That is the only thing that everyone has in common, but otherwise it's completely crazy. From I mean, I guess on the next cruise we will have over 50 different nationalities as well. So great way to meet people from all over the world.
Definitely. So we actually managed to get to the point when we were organizing the cruise together that we went on two directions at the same time, which we both, and then the whole team said that this was amazing. I think we actually arrived to like a super nice point on how the cruise was created. That was actually the 9th and the 10th cruise, so it was kind of an awesome anniversary. And then
Yes, and then it was over because COVID came. So which is also part of actually it's like the down part, but actually it's also something that created a lot more freedom in the world. The more remote work and more possibilities for people to work and live wherever they want. So even though it kind of killed the business, and we had to cancel our 11th trip at that time, I didn't know, but I had the feeling that this COVID will actually lead to create more remote work possibilities. And I think it's incredible how much more possibilities people have these days because of this. So not just thinking negative about it. Like, I mean, I see now there's huge interest into what we do. Everything is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had to take a break for 2 years or we had to run everything on a handbrake for 2-3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually still remember when we were still hesitant whether or not we can go on Cruise 11, and it was such a void. I think when we were like, right, so this we need to cancel it, and then we were actually in one of the conferences who said we are not doing it without actually being pushed to cancel. So we could cancel in time, I think, and that was a really hard decision, wasn't it?
Yes, it was crazy. I mean, I remember the days when the whole traveling became more and more difficult. I was like researching the whole COVID situation, and then a friend of mine was telling me about like, oh, in Italy they can't even leave their house anymore and whatsoever. And I'm like, hey, this is crazy. I can walk around here like, everything is fine. And 1 week later, we were actually in the same situation. But in between, I had to make this decision that we just have to cancel the trip, because I also didn't get any good answers from the cruise company at that time or whatsoever. Like, it was really, really tricky, but it worked out in the end.
It worked out, and it also created something new, something that you wanted to work for a long time.
Yes, I mean, we started to organize conferences around the world, which were called or are called Nomad Life. It's another project. It was a little bit different, a little bit more also quite challenging, but interesting time as well to run this. And now we are like kind of evaluating how we're taking things. There will be like quite a few changes on that project side as well. So it's a little bit difficult to explain exactly.
Yeah, you don't have
But
to.
basically, we created what I learned on the Nomad Cruise, and that's the whole idea about Nomad Base. The other project that we're running is that We are very, very good to build community on a short-term basis. And many of the contexts that we are creating, they actually lead to lifelong friendships, right? Like people who know each other and they keep in touch and they do everything. But as a community, sometimes it's a little bit hard because we also want to find other ways for people to reconnect and to meet everyone from the community without necessarily always having to jump back on a cruise ship. So, or also find some more ways to push the collaboration and for people to work together after the cruise. And that's why we started kind of this membership for digital nomads, which is now called Nomad Base. And that is still in quite an experimental phase, but I'm sure over time we will see where it's going to develop, and will add a lot of value to to have build more long-term connections within the community.
Yeah, I think, and when we talk about this building the community, we always felt that when we were coming out of a cruise ship, we would always be like, I gained so many new friends that they're so close to me. And when you walk into the cruise, you're kind of interested about the program and maybe the experience and maybe meeting a few cool people, but it's really difficult to kind of sell community because people don't think that they need community, but when they have the community, like, this is what I was waiting for my entire life, to be able to travel around the world and meet all these people. Like, I'm still hanging out with my Nomad Cruise friends. It's been 3 years since I've been on a Nomad Cruise, and I'm still, wherever I go, it's Nomad Cruisers everywhere. So yeah, it's a difficult thing to explain, but when you join the Nomad Cruise, you will know.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I'm like, just to put it like this, basically the thing is that people think they're buying a cruise when they're joining the Nomad Cruise, but the cruise is like, it's just like you pay for the venue, right? Like, it's just the venue. The venue is just the cruise, but it's really about all the things that revolve around the cruise and the value of the cruise and what you're doing, or why people should join. It's not about this venue that you're paying for, but it's the incredible long connection that are coming out of this. And for everyone who's like kind of a little bit interested in the nomad lifestyle, basically these connections, they can have such huge impact. I mean, there are hundreds of people now who are collaborating, working on similar projects, staying in, getting invited to stay in beautiful places around the world just because you met on the cruise, being part of, such an international community. So the true value only really always comes after the cruise. I would say that.
Yeah, we always say that the cruise is just the beginning.
Exactly. Yes.
So you mentioned that a few days ago we were actually together in Berlin. We met in Berlin, and I met one of the cruisers, and he was telling me that he met this new nomad. Yeah, he met a new nomad, and I was like, is this making me an old nomad? But then I realized that that's actually true. There's people kind of who are pre-COVID and post-COVID nomads, and I don't actually want to create categories here, but there's we did it before it was cool, and what do you think? Is there such thing, you think, like new nomads and old nomads?
For sure, and for sure on the next Nomad Cruise you will meet a lot of new nomads and old nomads, like in that sense, like people who started it before and after. I mean, I think that in a way, like the nomad life, right, it goes through different stages, and in the beginning you are just super excited to see the world and to jump to all these different destinations, and after a while you slow down a little bit more with the traveling. You're more connected to the people that you know already, and kind of what we have had before COVID was that the whole digital nomad world was a lot smaller, right? So actually we all kind of knew each other. It doesn't matter if we go to Canggu or Chiang Mai or Lisbon. It's kind of like, oh, we all like inside the digital nomad bubble or the Facebook groups and whatever was there, there were always some people that you would know. And now, what basically COVID created was COVID accelerated this lifestyle. And there are massive communities now where those old nomads have got zero connection to, and they are just like their own bubbles, right? Like there's the Madeira bubble, there's the Tenerife, Fuerteventura, like many, many different places that were not really on the map before COVID, and that have got their own completely own digital nomad community. And in the beginning, we always had the feeling that we know everything, and now it's so big that we kind of losing a little bit the overview. That's my spontaneous thought on this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel that there is definitely a new wave coming, and then there's many people started to go nomad and remote work or location independent. I think the terms are also changing a little bit.
Yeah.
I still find it easier to call it nomads. The reason why is because remote workers doesn't necessarily travel, and nomads do. And yeah, I think remote work means that there's the freedom that you can work from anywhere, but nomads actually change places. They are location independent. That's like close.
And maybe remote workers actually work a lot more than nomads. Nomads are sometimes a little bit more into the, I mean, they do work quite a lot as well, but they have sometimes a bit more focus on the lifestyle. So they like to travel, right? And in order to do that, they cannot be working, full time. Many have got a little bit figured out their passive game, or they have a higher income, or they're living in a little bit cheaper destinations. I mean, there's many ways how you can do it, but they have more focus on the lifestyle, quite like sometimes, right?
Yeah. After traveling so much and meeting so many people who want to be a nomad or who was already a nomad, I think we both saw a various amount of maybe mistakes. Can you recall some mistake that we can actually advise to the people who are considering and being location dependent?
I mean, I think it's like in a way it's mistakes, but also it's
Oh, wait a second. Yeah, no. Okay. Now you didn't move. Okay. Now your camera moves. Okay. Now.
so in a way, the mistakes are also a little bit part of the journey, I think, because I find it quite like, let's say you're starting to be a digital nomad and you have only been to, let's say, 15 countries in your life before, and now you're starting this journey, and you always dreamt about being in Costa Rica, and you dreamt about visiting Rio de Janeiro and Bali and Australia and whatever. So now when you're starting this journey, you just want to see all these places, right? So you automatically travel quite fast, but after a while you realize like this excitement of going to new places fades a little bit away. And you also realize, like, in the beginning you basically really have this energy to jump around, but you also make quite a few mistakes on that and whatsoever. And then the longer you do it, the less you have this feeling like, I need to see everything. I'm going to take it a bit more slow. I'm going to, like, I don't need to always meet 100 new people in every place where I go. I also have some friends already. So it's basically going through different stages, and from going super fast, you go slower. From meeting a lot of strangers and making friends, you go to, I just want to meet my friends again, right? So it's kind of the journey that everyone has to go through, and others see that immediately. For others, it's very clear after a month that they cannot work like this, especially if they have a lot of work. And others travel pretty fast already for 10 years, and they're not changing it. And so it takes them a little bit longer to adapt, right?
Yeah, I remember I think the first 2 months when I started my journey, I went to Thailand, Cambodia, Australia, and the whole New Zealand, south and north. And then I was like, why am I so tired while being a nomad? That was crazy, and all in 2 months. And yeah, I'm never going to do that again. So yeah, you kind of learn your mistake while doing them, and I'm slowing down more and more. Even now, I think I'm finding it. Do you think we're gonna stop at one point? Like, people keep saying to both of us, I think, like, when are you gonna settle down? Do you think we're gonna stop?
I think that what I see, I mean, even the retired people, many of them are nomads, right? Like they live in their country of origin, and then they live in a beautiful place, like, or like a more sunny destination, right? Like there's a lot of Germans who live in Spain in the winter, right? Just because it's a little bit more the weather is a little bit more mild. And so that shows that it doesn't necessarily need to stop at one point, because actually the retired people are doing it still. But what I see is that just basically we become like home. We're creating our home in a few destinations, and I mean I'm doing that in that sense that very often I just return to places. Like I pretty much know the most of the places where I'm going. I've already been there 1 or 2 times, or maybe I go there every few years. So it's just about living in, I think the trend eventually, or those people who will do this for a longer period of time, most of them will have a home in like 2 or 3 destinations. And I mean, if they're doing well in business, they will own a home in all these places, and they will rent it out in the time when they are not there. So I think that's a little bit where it's developing for a lot of people who are in this game for a longer time, or they find one place that they really love and then they build a home there. But usually there's always some way that we need to want to return to the place where we grew up and where we have a lot of family and friends from our childhood, and we also don't like to be there in the winter when it's cold.
I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. So, okay, we talked about the future of remote work and location independence, but what do you think is going to be the future for Nomad Cruise? First of all, we know the short future that comes.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, it's not that I have like a specific goal on this. I would love to one day that we have one whole ship where we go together, just because I would like to see this experiment and how it plays out, right?
Yeah, because just so that we explain it, because many people think that Nomad Cruise is actually a full ship, but we are just part of a full cruise. So you get to meet the other passengers, which can be fun sometimes.
Yes. We have to add here as well that you don't really realize that there are other people on the ship when we organize it, because we have a lot of private venues, and we have like all the program and stuff is happening in these venues, and private dinners. And so there are sometimes people there, but they are not that are not part of the cruise. But it's not really a negative thing in any way. It's just that's the only way how we can organize it. And I'm not really sure what it's going to be like if we organize a full ship for nomads, if that's maybe a little bit overwhelming. But so anyways, I would love to do it one day. So if you ask me about the future, just to see how it works, and I have many ideas how we can do it with a full ship, but it's also a really cool experience to have a smaller group. Yeah, and then we just started a trip to Antarctica, so we're going a little bit different ways as well.
Really amazing, yeah.
So these are like smaller cruises, smaller expeditions, I would say. So we are basically now we got a great opportunity to organize a trip to Antarctica. It was not really planned for long. Like I always had this in mind. But because we wanted to get a little bit off the track, or to go to places where we would not get 300 bookings that are a little bit further away. So these trips are something that we might do more in the future, but now we will see how the first one will work, and just basically go to different destinations on smaller routes. I also want to organize some more like on land events, like what we were doing with Nomad Base, to bring the community together for reunions. And I mean, personally, what I would really like to do is I would like to create a destination for nomads, right? I would like to, that has got nothing to do really with Nomad Cruise, but basically get some land, find a
Mm.
beautiful place where also those nomads who want to like have it a little bit easier to reconnect, where they can put their house. So anything of real estate or, you know, where we can bring the community together to meet also in a physical location and in something that we own. I would really love to do that. So that's a little bit my dream. That is actually yeah, away from Nomad Cruise, but
Mm.
just some kind of place where we all can own a home.
Amazing. Do you have any country or continent in mind?
I mean, I see there's quite a lot of things happening in Asia with regards to building something. Depends also a little bit on the laws and, you know, how this can be done. I'm quite open to do this in many places around the world. Also in Cyprus, actually, where we have the base for the business and where I'm also spending some time of the year. So I haven't really decided, but when there's a nice opportunity, then I'm on board.
Nice. I think many of us actually think about it. How the future is going to change and how we are going to own land and how we are going to continue being in a community while having our own space. And I think I talk to so many people that are going towards that way. I'm hoping to have a few people joining the podcast that we can talk on how we're going to live in the future. And it's really in my mind because I think we all need a community, and we get used to traditionally we get used to that we just have community from school and from work. But what if work doesn't exist anymore in one space? And what if we are redefining how we are connecting to people and
Mm,
where we are meeting these people and what are the basis on how we are meeting people? And I think Nomad Cruise is one of the milestones or one of the building blocks of this future, because it brings together people who has the same values, which is freedom. So yeah, thanks so much for organizing that for us. And I guess I think I run out of questions for now. Is there anything that you would like to add? So maybe a little bit on the next cruise, or should I just talk about that later?
you can talk about it later. I mean, I
Mhm.
can, well, I mean, just like every year, usually at the end of the year, we organize a transatlantic trip. It's amazing. So we have two different types of cruises. Like one is in the Mediterranean, which is also really cool. But for those people who really want to like jump on the nomad life and then afterwards in the destination where we go spend more time, these trips at the end of the year are very special. And we're going to Brazil, where we've already been 4 times. And I mean, you can find all the information on the website, but what I just see is that one feedback that I hear is a lot of people write to me like, yeah, I've been following your newsletter for the last 5 years, and now I'm finally joining, and I should have jumped on board, you know, so much sooner. Like I regret that I didn't do this earlier. So like I think that it doesn't matter how ready you are to do this. Like if you dream or if you want to be more location independent and it works with your budget, right? You know, to do this, and you have a job, like a kind of a stable job, I would really, or job or work as a freelancer. I would just recommend not to postpone things, but like actually really go out there. It doesn't matter if you go on Nomad Cruise or you go to Lisbon to meet people who are living this life, or to Bali or to Chiang Mai. But the most important thing is not to be alone and dreaming about this lifestyle, but actually going out there, because there's a lot of amazing people and everyone has been in the same situation, that they kind of didn't know many people who were doing this, and now we are all super well connected. So rather start earlier than later.
I completely agree. Just one side note on here. I remember we wrote an article about why do not wait for your next cruise. And then we published this in 2020. So it's more up to date, I think, than ever to just like take this opportunity. There were so many people who wanted to join then, and then hopefully they are joining now. But whatever, yeah, if you want to start location independent, I think there is no better way than to join a community. Yeah, as you said, either in Lisbon or Bali or and learn from those people.
Yeah, I think also like, I mean, because we talk quite a lot about the cruise now, and really for this accounts for everything, right? If you want to go somewhere, you need to connect to the people who are already doing what you're doing. Like you cannot learn this all by yourself. You cannot learn crypto even by yourself or whatever it is, right? Like I mean, crypto is not so popular at the moment, but whatever the things are, like go where those people are who are doing it. And everyone always understands that, hey, everyone always was like a beginner in something or like was, and people are generally very, very open to help other people. So it's fine, if you go out and if you say go to any type of event, even in your city, go to connect to the people. Like don't postpone it. Like the best way to learn, the best way to get ahead is to mingle with those who are already doing what you want to do. And I think that's so super important, especially for everyone who's in search of something different, right? And wants to take a new step.
Okay, this is perfect ending. Thank you so much for joining the podcast, and I guess I'm going to see you soon.
Okay, yes, I hope so too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I have some good news for you. If you would like to join the Nomad Cruise heading to Brazil this December, I have a €100 discount for you. Use the promo code something different, and let's sail together. See you there.